Welcome, Angela Rovano, to the show. Delighted to
Hello.
finally get you here. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am not bad, not bad. Calling all the way from Wisconsin this morning.
Yep.
So a bit of a time zone difference, lol. But I like to start every podcast the same way, which is having my guests introduce themselves because I feel like I say every time, I botch everyone's intro and everyone's is far more interesting than the way I can describe them. So, Angela, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do today, and how you got to where you are?
Yes. My name is Angela Rovano. I am from Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm currently the Director of Operations for Healthcare Services Group. We are a contract food service company that we get hired by nursing homes to go in and make sure that their residents are fed and taken care of. Currently, I am in charge of about 71 facilities. I have facilities in Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, and North Dakota. I have 6 district managers that report to me and about a total of 650 employees. So,
Whoa,
yeah.
amazing, huge. I mean, across multiple states, and I mean, I guess first thing that kind of comes to mind here is that there must be like an incredible regulatory burden for the product across all those different states, or is there not? I'm just curious. Like from an operations standpoint, it must be difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice to be able to work. I usually do 2 or 3 days remote work, and then the other days I'm traveling, visiting facilities. There's a direct flight from Appleton to Minneapolis, where a lot of my buildings are, so that's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And so it's nursing homes and assisted livings, and you provide like the staff, or is it like you mentioned offline as well, like nutrition, for example? Is it like the meal and dietary prep, etc., everything that kind of goes into the people who live there, like running how they even consume the food? Or tell me a bit about how the operation works from your perspective.
Yeah, so we do all of that. We provide a manager, a certified manager, which our company does all the certifications. So we're actually working on an accredited program. It's a food service manager certification as well as a long-term care manager certification. So we provide all of the education to the managers, and then we also employ cooks and dietary aides. So what we do is make sure that everything is from the purchasing to the preparation of the food to delivering it to the residents. Our company is in charge of a huge clinical department and is in charge of regulating diets, making sure that textures, modifications are accurate, and that the residents are satisfied and happy.
That's amazing. And so one of the things I think about a lot, is and I'm curious your take, because you're the first nursing home assisted living type business that I've had on the podcast. And when I think about that, I mean, it's kind of amazing that I've done so many without even, you're the first one. But what I think is and I said this offline, is there's very much like a true for some, relevant for all when it comes to working in hospitality, whatever flavor you're in, and that is there are certain challenges no matter what that exist, and one of them is hiring across the board. And when I think about something like cooks, for example, I'll tell you, I see it in the data that I have seen here that there's a lack of cooks across the board, and it's how do you think about the hiring for these? Is it just the cooks and the nutrition specialists, or are there many other people that you have to help to service the kitchen? Do you have to find multiple people back of house staff that work in the kitchen, or is it literally just cook per facility? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so it's typically cooks per facility, and then we also have the dietary aid. So the cook is the one who prepares the meal, and the dietary aid is the person who puts it together and serves it to the resident. So for the cooks, I feel as though there was a time period where it was really hard to hire. And it took a couple of years after 2020 to build it back up. But I think that if you're persistent enough and reaching out to people and coming up with different ideas to get people interested and getting them to stay, somebody can come and work for us for a few days and see somewhere else is hiring and completely jump ship. Like, and that's kind of the culture that we're in right now. So you have to make it so that they want to work for you, and you know that they feel the passion to stay with our organization.
Yeah, so like I mean that's actually an interesting point. So like, you know, when you think about retention, like what are you guys doing to try and retain like these cooks, for example?
So obviously we do have a competitive pay rate, but it's not just about the pay rate. It's about the work-life balance and getting to know people as a human, and you know, going into one of our facilities, and even myself, like, you know, connecting with them on a certain level that they can relate to, and yeah, just making sure that you're available and communicating. And I think that communication is key. And if they call you at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, you know, you pick up the phone. And I think that's one reason that we can get people to stay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's certainly something that I hear from everyone, which is like, you know, you mentioned after 2020, like we just needed bodies and we needed to get them now. And then it was like,
Mhm.
no, actually, it became we need quality bodies. And then to your point about it being so difficult that people come and they leave so quickly, is that the real question now is about retention. And how do
Mhm.
we think about retaining the staff we have? And how do we think about creating sort of like benefit programs and career paths training for people to say like, this is what you're doing today, but this is your pathway where you can go. Do you guys have like training programs for your staff as well, like to like, you know, get them into more administrative roles, that kind of thing, if they want them?
We absolutely do. We have a department. It's the people development department, and the people development managers. And so what they do is they recruit, they help us operations find the right candidate for the position, and they follow that candidate all the way through the hiring process. And um, what is so huge about our company is that a lot of the people that are in positions where I am started off as dietary aides and cooks, and we have an amazing manager and training process, a district manager and training process, and we just follow that person through the path, and whatever their main goal is, we try to get them there. So most of the people in our company started off as an account manager or a dietary aide. So I started off as an account manager in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh, did you? That was like
Yeah,
that's where you had your like started to it. Okay,
I
interesting.
did. I did. I worked for Darden Restaurants for about 13 years prior to coming into healthcare. And
Nice.
so I started off as an account manager in one building in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And within a few months, I was a district manager running 7 buildings. And here I am running 71 now. So. Mhm.
Very interesting. So is that your time when you were at Red Lobster? So that was like on
I was, yes. Yep. And Darden Restaurants was an amazing company to work for.
I've
Darden
had
owned Red
many
Lobster.
I've had many Darden alums on this podcast. Many.
Yes. I really could not think of a better company to work for at the time. Like, they were so, you know, they paved the way for HACCP, and they paved the way for QAPI and quality control. And Darden Restaurants was amazing, but I was a little bit burnt out from the restaurant, so decided to try out healthcare, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, no, I mean absolutely. I mean, and I think it's a great talent incubator, that place. I have like the head of operations from DRG coming on this week. And then she was at Darden, and I had the CEO of Goodberry's Creamery, who was at Darden for a long time as well on the podcast.
Mhm.
So like, and I've had like a former senior exec on, one of the first people who went to Earl Enterprise and now California Pizza Kitchen. Like, it's funny, like, like these people, everyone I feel like is like Darden connected on some level. So it's pretty cool. That's why I'm like, oh, I'm smiling here that you're also Darden. That
Yeah.
makes you go up in my estimation. Um, no, that's awesome. And I mean, like, I guess, you know, how did you think about like that move from like going from like operations, you know, training sort of like at like say like a Red Lobster and then finding yourself in like healthcare services? Was there like something about the healthcare services group that it's like spoke to you beyond simply just as an operational role?
Actually, they, you know, their interview process was really well, and the person that interviewed me, he, you know, explained himself and how he became into the position and how he started with healthcare services group. And he told me a lot of success stories. And one thing too is, I mean, a big part of what we do is is for the residents. And they sometimes, you know, with business, you're focused more on compliance and you're focused on your employees, but really bottom line, it's the residents. And there's a lot of people, that generation, you know, who rely upon us to take care of them. They've taken care of people for so long, and now it's our turn, you know. So some of these people, they don't have anyone else either. So their biggest deal of the entire day is their meals. So that's what they look forward to. And, you know, if they have something to complain about with a meal, or, you know, they say it's too cold, really, they just want that personal connection to come into their room and talk to them, you know, and just making that connection with the residents. And you know, walking in and saying, oh, hey Jack, I like your shirt today, or how was your pancakes, or, you know, just making that personal connection with them. And it really makes their day just to be recognized.
And it's interesting you said, you know, I actually worked in a nursing home.
Did you really?
Would you believe that? Would you believe that? Yeah, in April 2005, the high school I went to, we would do 1 week of work experience in term one. So you go work at whatever. And I worked at a radio station. Lol. And then I was like, here I am now, you know. And then the second one, you had to do a social initiative. And so mine was going to a nursing home. So I spent a week in a nursing home. And I'll tell you what, it was the most backbreaking day I have ever done. They put me to work. It was like an 8 a.m. start, 8 to 6 p.m. And, you know, it's funny when you're talking about the cook, like one cook per facility, because I remember that's what it was like. There was a guy in the kitchen, and he was like making all the breakfast, making all the lunch. And yeah, they're kind of, I mean, obviously the older I've gotten, the more people I know that have actually gone into those versus when I was 16, when I didn't really know many people. Like, luckily at the time, but my grandparents were like healthy and living at home, so they weren't in them. But obviously now they ended their lives in those sorts of facilities. But it's interesting in the sense that, like, you know, they're an amazing facility when they're done right, and I'm a huge advocate for them. And, you know, like having a sister who's a nurse, you know, and I spent time in them as well. Like, I do, like, for me, like, the well-run sort of operation is the difference between having a happy family and a very upset family. I feel like there's that kind of fine line, because everyone's kind of like missing their grandmother, or missing their grandfather, or a parent, and, you know, like, you want them to have like the best kind of, I guess, lifestyle they can have within that kind of facility. And a lot of that comes from the food, would you believe? Like,
yes, it's a very large part.
It's a very large part of it. I mean, hopefully the bed company and the nurses are nice, but like fundamentally, like, in the food. And it's cool. Like, I mean, you know, I think about that a lot, because it's like hiring challenges is just like one of these kind of abnormal realities that we now have to live with post-COVID. And it's like, one thing I will always say is that it's like, not just you, so never like worry that, like, it's like, oh, why can't we find these people? It's like, you know, speaking of Red Lobster, they're not able to find that cook too. You know what I mean? Like, it's saying, like, there's a dearth, like, people have gone and they have done other careers since. Now, I have had people come back on the pod talk about, like, sort of like the, you know, the one guy said it so well, and he was director of operations at a hotel, like a timeshare hotel group. I don't want to call it timeshare because I'm not sure, strictly speaking, it's like what that is, but they're like vacation rentals, that kind of thing. And he was like, you know, we talked a lot about like the great resignation in hospitality, but it's like now we're at the great regret, where a lot of people want to come back because they want to feel that connection. Sure, you can go work at Amazon and get $24 an hour, and you can, you know, they might pay for an education fee or something, but like, if you want to be in a factory floor all day, you know what I mean? Used to being a GM of a restaurant or GM of a hotel, or, you know, you're like hustle and bustle. I think, like, where do you see from your perspective, how a recovery in hiring is going to look like in your type of business? Because if you think there's a bit of a stasis, like, what do you think? What's your outlook on the rest of the year or the rest of the next 24 months?
I think that the candidate pool is definitely growing. I think that people are looking to, you know, there's different ways that you can be successful and grow as a person. And Education and going to college is one of them, but not everybody has that opportunity. So our company, if you get hired as a cook, I think that growth is such a huge thing for people right now. If they have a future with a company and we provide that education and provide that future, I think that it makes it very desirable for people to come and work for us.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think that's exactly it. It's like, people talk a lot about like, you know, people like are lack the conversation around employee experience. I think we kind of have an idea that a great
Mm-hmm.
employee experience like matters, but like now I think there's like a business laser focused need for like
Mm-hmm.
employee experience, like, and you spoke to it with certain kind of benefits that you're like offering and sort of training programs that exist, because I think like they are like the crucial things that I
Mm-hmm.
hear in this podcast when I talk to executives. Like you've got 650 people or whatever the number is that report to you, like six like district managers. I mean, that's a lot of people to manage, and
Yeah.
like that's a lot of happy faces and a lot of unhappy faces. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like how do you unlock their type of potential? Like I kind of talk a lot about that on the pod really. It's like, like unlocking people's potential in hospitality, because it's so hard to like identify like in
Mm-hmm.
a sort of metric driven way. And what I mean by that is, if I asked you to describe like what makes somebody good from great in hospitality, actually I will ask you that. What separates good from great in hospitality?
I think that people, okay, so from good to great, they have to have motivation for sure, and drive and integrity. And again, like, I mean, I can't speak enough about communication. There's a lot of people that don't pick up the phone and call someone anymore. They only shoot texts, and it's like you need that one-on-one communication with people. I think that somebody who is great is driven, and they want to succeed, and they want to be the best version of themselves. I have a lot of people who, want to move up in the company, and I think that them being honest and straightforward, and even if on the bad days when they have challenges, they rise to the occasion. Instead of backing down, they hit them straight through.
Yeah, and like it's interesting in the sense that like, they're all intangible qualities. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And it's like, and this is like kind of the difficulty I think hospitality really finds itself in, which is like, how do I understand and measure this? Like if I've got 600, if I said to you there's 650 people there, and you're like, how would you even compare one from two or two from three other than like your gut check? You know what I mean? And I think that's like where we are now with like employee experience, is like understanding like, okay, like we need to like figure out how to unlock these people. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's funny, like I had actually up in your neck of the woods, I had the CEO of Big B Coffee on. And
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Love Bigby.
Oh, I'll tell Mike McFall that. I had him on last week, and we were talking about he'll kill me for like botching this. I botch everything. I'm a terrible botcher. But like it's basically like a self-reflection of oneself.
Mm-hmm.
He talks a lot about it like in his business about like about a structural bias. And I'm not saying you're biased, it's more like I'm in my head, it's like in hospitality, what like, you know, it's like it's very hard when you haven't if you've come through something that you will look at it through the lens of the way that you've come through it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, especially now with Gen Z that have kind of come into the workforce, that
Mm-hmm.
finished high school with a laptop, went through college with a like at home and like staring at a laptop. I never really had that kind of first job opportunity because those years were
Mm-hmm.
kind of robbed from them, so to speak. And so we have like different ways of looking at like at Gen Z, for example, and not like kind of coming at them from where they're coming from, which is like, do they live to work or work to live? You know what I mean? In a
Mm-hmm.
way that he came up that way. And like, how do they like look at like, say, work, and what's their attitude towards it? And then it's like, we want to bring them in and we want to apply our ways of working to them versus like meeting them where they're at. I mean, a question for you on that, I mean, is how do you think about like bringing like Gen Z into yours? I presume yours are slightly older because they're like, well, I don't know why I'm presuming. I guess there's my own bias. Like, for like say like cooking staff, for example, like kitchen staff, like are they typically like leaning older if they're kind of ending up with you, or like are you kind of getting kids straight out of like culinary school, that kind of thing?
I would say it's a definitely a mix of both. We used to get a lot of younger kids, high school, 16, 17, 18 years old, but I think that now those kids are so busy. Like the 16, 17, and 18-year-olds of our generation. I mean, if you're in a sport, it's year round. It's like you have practice every day. Like those kids are hard to come by for sure. But typically, those are they were so great because they would come in and like just do the dishwashing or whatever. But again, it's really hard to find those people. A lot of people that we find, I would say are I guess a little bit older. You're probably right. I don't know. It's all over the board. I'm not sure about that
I have
one.
my own structural bias.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, like, I mean, because you have such a huge amount of people reporting. I mean, the number blows my mind because
Mhm.
it's like it's real scale. And so, like, even that question seems like, even, yeah, my question seems like null and void almost, because it's like, yeah, I guess it's like a bit of old people, but young people, it's a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
Do you like, I mean, I guess, like, one of the things is people like, how do Gen Z work on the workplace? And like, of the Gen Zs that are kind of coming your way, what's your kind of typical viewpoint on that and how they've been dealing with reality with you?
I mean, they're fine. I don't have much to speak about Gen Z. I'm sorry, but
Well, that's fair. And that's also, that says a lot as well. You know what I mean? In the sense that, like, I have some people, like I was saying, it's like just different kind of planet that they inhabit, and especially like in hospitality,
yeah,
which is like an interesting in and of itself. I think, like, ultimately it's like, you're in a very unique kind of business as well. It's like nursing homes, you know what I mean? And it's
yeah.
like, you get like, I guess you get like the kid volunteers, kids who want to do it as a bit of a job, and then
Mhm.
it's like, is there probably like a college gap, and do people come back? Like, what's the typical like kind of pathway for people when they come in and work with you guys?
I would say a lot of the people that come and work for us are from restaurants, and they just want something different, whether it be, the hours at the restaurants or
Yeah,
it, I think that healthcare is not, I mean, it's not slower paced, but a little bit, I mean, you have the same things every day, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're serving about the same amount of people. Where restaurants, it can be so up and down and crazy, which I really enjoy, but also it's nice to have a little bit of structure and, you know, um,
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think, like, and it makes sense you would hire a lot of them directly just from restaurants, and people are looking for a bit of a career change there. So do
mhm.
you pitch it as like a sort of career change as well? Like that's like a key part of the value prop?
Yes, absolutely. We do pitch it as a career change as well as, I mean, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but just the growth in our company is amazing. And we're growing. Like right now, it's like a really good time for our company because the nursing homes are growing so much and the residents are growing so much. And, people are living longer and looking for facilities to, I know it's weird, but
No, I mean, I always thought, I swear to God, I always thought this, I should have been an entrepreneur in nursing homes. I feel like buy a property, do it up, and you put it, and I don't know. I mean, in Ireland, the government pays you. So, like, I guess, like,
yeah.
you get that, and it's private. So, like, I guess people are making out. You know,
I base a lot of my when I'm in a facility too. I absolutely look at the food. I try the food. I taste the food, and I always think to myself, like, would I serve this to my dad? you know,
but that's
and
totally
if
fair.
I read it, it's going back. So,
I totally agree with that. I think, like, it's like whenever I talk to people about, like, I speak to like restaurant owners or hotel owners, and I go, tell me what it's like when you walk into another hotel. And they're like immediately like, I'm looking around and I'm like seeing something over there. It's like, why is that not being done? I'm in a restaurant. And one guy said to me, I can walk into a restaurant and tell you if like the place is on fire or not. And I'm like, I just know. Is that the same for you when you go into like a nursing home now? You walk in and you go, I can tell if it's well run or not just by like
Oh,
still looking.
absolutely. 100% I can. When you go in the kitchen or you walk through the dining room and there's still plates on the table or it's not cleaned up or the residents don't look happy, like that's definitely a red flag for me. If I go in the kitchen and like it's a mess or there's other days where you go in the kitchen and the residents are saying, or that you go into the dining room, the residents are saying hello to you. You walk into the kitchen and the employees are happy and they have music playing and they're talking to each other. Like it's just a totally different vibe when things are going well.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, like, I guess, like what, like, you said it's a growing business you're in. Obviously, it's 650 people. People are living longer. More people are kind of coming into that phase of their life as well.
Yes.
I mean, it must be a very competitive environment as well. Like, do you like have like competitors, like, and how do they like interact with you guys? Like, as in, how do you think about like sort of the growing space? Because it's a very nascent space. I think like 15 years ago, I don't think people would have talked about it this way, if you know what I mean. Whereas now it's like actually we're coming into a phase when there's a lot of people moving into nursing and assisted living facilities.
It's true. It's true. We do have competitors, obviously, but what makes us different than them is we have more of a passion for the residents and a passion for our employees. We're not there's people out there who are just trying to make money and charge the nursing homes more and more, but we are invested in customer satisfaction and client relations and resident satisfaction. So I think that puts us apart from our competitors, just our passion for the industry.
Because like one of the things like that I hear a lot like from especially people at restaurants and hotels is that it's not necessarily like they don't really mind like the sort of front of house or back of house staff kind of moving to like competitive part of life, but it's like the GMs are like the cornerstone, the backbone of like those operations. And there, especially in hotels, seems to be a very like kind of competitive market for like great GMs. Like when you think about like you're not really in that battle per se, other than just for cooks, correct? And like they're getting them from restaurants anyway. There's not like a battle for talent in a competitive context in a way that there might be for restaurants. Is that kind of how I should interpret this as well?
I think it's pretty equivalent. I mean, we need account managers, so I guess that would be equivalent to finding a restaurant manager, and a GM would be like our district manager. And our district managers, they have, some of them have such a large territory that it might take 2 hours to drive to one of their facilities, just like a restaurant, I suppose. And they have to make sure that they're all staffed and that they have the right people in the right places and that all the food is ordered and the diets are in line and the tray tickets are printed and ready to go for each meal service. And people eat every day, so it's like not a Monday through Friday job. So you have to be willing on a Saturday to drop what you're doing and go in to a nursing home to help prep food or help serve, because people have to eat every single meal. Just turn it on.
Yeah. It's, I mean, incredibly fascinating work you're doing. I have to say, I kind of wish I had even more time to speak with you, because I feel like we could go down many, many rabbit holes, and maybe we can. I mean, maybe we can another time. But like, I guess we've done 35 minutes now already. Can you believe that? Like, we're coming up on time. So I appreciate that so much, Angela. And the last question I ask everybody is, what advice would you give people listening to this podcast episode?
What advice would I give? I would say to somebody who was like applying for the position that I'm in, to definitely you have to have passion, you have to have integrity, you have to have drive, you have to have self-discipline. And this position is so rewarding, from not only making our clients happy, but making the residents happy. And I love my team as well, and just building relationships and go with your passion and your drive. I don't know what to say.
No, I mean, that counts. They all count.
I'm not sure. Good luck.
You're great. I appreciate that. Angela, thank you so much for coming on. You've been an absolute star.
Yes, it was nice to meet you. Thank you so much.